Hi, I'm Angel with FleeceFun.com and Shannon Fabrics. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute drawstring backpack. Now, I know what you're thinking, Angel, that has been done. Yes, it has. Lots and lots of times. But what is special about this tutorial is that the drawstring backpack is really, it's the first sewing tutorial. It is the sewing tutorial that it doesn't matter what sewing class you sit down in, that is the thing you make on your first lesson. And the reason is I'm doing this tutorial with you is because if you are new to Cuddle fabric, this is the tutorial you need to do. Cuddle fabric has some special properties, and I'm going to walk you through step by step how to do that, which is actually why we are in my sewing studio today, which is why I don't have my big fancy backdrop and stuff. Instead, I hauled all the lights into my little studio and did it. But I'm really excited to show you step by step how to work with this fabric and how to make this really cute drawstring backpack. Isn't that cute? It looks so cute on my little girl there. In this tutorial, we're going to be using one of the Cuddle Cake kits from Shannon Fabrics. And yes, Cuddle Cake kits, can you say that 5 times fast, are available in the Fleece Fun online store. So be sure to check them out there. Alright, and the really cool thing is that you can make several out of one of these kits. So let's get started, okay? It's very easy to make, and since we're taking this from a beginner perspective, I'm going to walk you through a lot of things step by step. Now I am using Cuddle Cakes. There are 20 squares, 20 10-inch squares in each of these, which is great. You can actually make 3 of these from one package. So this is great if you're going to make a bunch of little gifts for someone. Also, just so you know, there are coordinating cuddle charms that go with it. So if you wanted to mix things up or you have a project that needs both sizes of squares, that's there and available to you, and it's really, really easy. Alright, as you can see, I've already made one, and I'm going to walk you through how to make this. Now, each one of these, you're going to need 6 squares total, and you're going to need 1 additional piece of a square for the pocket here. Now, to make the exterior, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 squares, that's going to be the body of it, and then we'll use 1 square to make the top. Now, of course, you need to be aware of the direction of Cuddle. If you're unfamiliar with working with Cuddle, it has a bit of a pile to it, and so if you pet it, see right there, it's going against my hand. Alright, and what we want to do is we want to try and make it so it's all going in the same direction. So since this is going to be on the top, ideally I want to make it go this way. Now, is this going to totally affect your project if it doesn't match up? No, but actually it's just a good habit to get into, because the more you work with this, the more you need to be aware of it for different projects and such. Alright, so I'm going to take this 10-inch square and I'm going to cut it in half. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rotary cutter and I'm going to take a ruler. And you're going to want to use a rotary cutter most of the time when you're working with Cuddle, because Cuddle sheds. That soft, furry goodness needs to go somewhere, and we call it Cuddle dust. And it sheds, and so you're going to want to make sure that you use a rotary cutter just because it actually cuts down on the shedding. And also be aware there is a little bit of slip to this fabric, so you're going to want to make sure that you lock it down there. Line it up so everything's nice and neat. There we go. Alright, so I have my 2 squares and I'm just going to pet and line that up there. Perfect. And this is going to be my front, and then I'm going to take this other square here and I'm going to make that my back. And I love the birds in this selection. Up. Flip that around. All matchy-matchy. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these one solid piece, which means we're going to do a seam right here, which means we are going to sew it. Now, the trick with this is typically when we sew, we like to pin like this. When you're working with Cuddle, you're going to want to do it this way. Not perpendicular like you're used to, you're going to want to pin it this way. It just locks it down more. And I'm also going to show you a trick. Because Cuddle has a stretch to it, it's a knit fabric. And there's some wonderful properties because of that, but it's also you need to be more careful. Because it's a knit fabric, little trick I've learned, is what you're going to do is you're going to want to pin one corner first, then the other corner, and then the middle, okay? And this is important because your fabric won't be stretching as you're pinning, and it'll make it a lot even. Because sometimes if you start pinning here and you go all the way across, you're going to end up with too much because there's a little bit of stretch in the fabric. And also part of that, petting the fabric and making sure that the pile is all going in the right direction will also make it so the stretch is also going in the same direction, which will make it important to sew. So yes, that would seem like normally an obscene amount of pins for a 10-inch square, but actually for Cuddle fabric, this is a good amount. You're going to repeat and do this on this side, okay? Now, once you've sewn that, you're going to have something that looks like this. And I want to put a little pocket here, and I'm going to show you how to do some basic applique. What you're going to do is you're going to take another 10-inch square. All I've done is I've cut that in half already in advance, and then I'm going to cut that in half one more time. So we're going to cut that in half, and we're going to cut that in half again, so that gives me a 5-inch square. But do you know what else gives me a 5-inch square? Yes, one of these. So I could just as easily pull one of these out. But for today, I'm just going to use up the fabric I've got open. But you know, that's a good way to save time. Just use one of the Cuddle charms. Cut that in half. So I've got this for a pocket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this down, about a 1/2 inch or so, and I'm maybe an inch even. No, go 1/2 inch. I'm going to fold that over, and actually I am going to show you a fun little secret. Normally when we're using quilting and stuff, we like to use 505 spray, but glue sticks are awesome. Every sewist should have a glue stick as part of their kit now, I think. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a little glue stick right there. I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it down. Let's see, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. About a 1/2 inch there. 1/2 inch there. I'm using my mat to kind of check and see. All right. So there's that. I might just pin it just to make sure it'll stay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all along there. All right, now I know in previous tutorials I've mentioned when working with Cuddle you really want a walking foot, and that still remains true. You really want a walking foot when you're working with Cuddle. However, it is possible when working on smaller projects to not have a walking foot. So in this tutorial I'm not using my walking foot begrudgingly. I'm just using a standard foot. However, the one piece of equipment that you really need to have, which is a small investment, is a ballpoint needle. If you don't use a ballpoint needle, odds are that your fabric is going to pucker and it's just not going to lay properly. Now the fact of the matter is, when you're working with Cuddle fabric, it is possible to use a standard foot. It's just not as easy. It requires a lot more pinning and a lot more patience. Okay, but we've got plenty of those, right? We've got plenty of pins and patience. So let's get started in sewing our piece together. All right, so I've taken my pocket and I have sewn that edge down. Doesn't it look nice? So nice and neat. And actually, because this is a knit fabric, you know, I mentioned there were special properties before. Well, this is one of them. Because it's a knit fabric, it doesn't unravel. It does shed, and after washing it, it will stop shedding, but it does not unravel. So the great part is that when we do applique, we can just applique right along the edge and we're good to go. So what we're going to do is some basic applique, and this is a great way to get started on doing applique with Cuddle fabric because you can do some beautiful quilts and other things with that, and this is a great way to get started as a beginner. So we are going to use my trick again. We're to get it perfectly centered. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just have the worst luck getting things centered or perfectly when I pin something. But you use this, it holds it down temporarily, washes away. it is such a great trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of center it here, center it on my fabric, kind of where I want to place it. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's just a little bit off center, no one will know. You will be the only one that knows, and no one will even notice. Okay. And as you can see, it holds it on there really well, which is perfect while you're sewing with it. It's not going to slide around on you. I like to have a few pins just to kind of help it stay, just because, you know, it's hard to let go of the pins. What can I say? So I'm going to just put a few in there just to stabilize it a little bit. But other than that, that's all you need. And all we're going to do is we're going to do a zigzag stitch all around the edge, and it'll be perfect. All right, let's go to the machine.